Are you still here? Yeah.
Here we are.
Okay. Good. Good.
Welcome, Gaetan. Is that how you pronounce your name? Can you help me with
Yeah,
that?
Gaetan is fine. Don't worry.
Gaetan. Close enough. You're joining me from France, but I don't know exactly where. If you are comfortable saying what part of France you're in.
Yeah, so it's Strasbourg. So it's Strasbourg is on the really east border of
Yeah.
France. So next,
Okay.
really a few kilometers away from Germany. So it's one of the most eastern city in France.
Okay, it's a part of France
So
I don't know at all. I have visited Paris and some of the north, Mont Saint-Michel, some of the south around Provence, but I never made it to the east, at least not yet, but
yeah.
maybe one day.
Yes,
So
you have to tell that.
I ran into you online by reaching out to the Cittagazze fan website around Philip Pullman's books and his Dark Materials, and someone there forwarded you my message, I think, and you were very kind to respond, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me a little bit. So maybe first, could you just introduce yourself a bit and how you kind of got interested in Philip Pullman and the Cittagazze website.
So, so I'm Gaetan, so I'm 40 year old, 41, and I've been discovering Philip Pullman more than 20 years ago, so 2002, something like this. So I was still a student, so even pupil at the time. So I was 17 or something like this. And I was more interested back then in movies. And I had heard about this project about adapting a trilogy of books from a British guy called Philip Pullman. And it was about multiple universe and stuff like this. And so I was curious. So I just bought the books and read them. And back then, I was not really much in fantasy or sci-fi or anything like this. And I was just struck by these books because they were supposed to be for children. And suddenly it was about religion, it was about science, multiple universe. And suddenly there were witches, there were talking birds. And so it was absolutely not what I was used to. But I just got caught by the books and I read them and then it was wow, it's good, it's nice, interesting, many topics. And so it was the beginning of a long story because so we are 25 years later and so I've been it's been part of the life since then and always a pleasure to read these books and to use them as a start point to discover other things and by the time meeting many other people and so just I would say yes a mean to go to other things, but the books remained with me since that time, and so I came back to them many times, and
Uh,
we're here to talk about them. So
yes.
it means that
And have you
it
had a
worked.
chance to read the new trilogy as well, The Book of Dust?
Yeah. So it's I just finished the British version quite shortly after the release. So the French version is still not released here.
Oh,
But
wow.
so over the time, I switched most of the time to the British version of the books because there is always a time before it's released in France. And so I'm quite used now to the Pullman books in English. But yeah,
Ah,
so
I'm interested in the differences, if there are any differences that you noticed between the French translation of his Dark Materials and then when you read it in English. Did you see, is the style pretty similar? Were there any things that you noticed that were changed in any way or?
So most of the things are quite so similar. There are some. I'm not sure the quotation of Paradise Lost appears in the French version. I should check
Mm,
at the beginning because it's here in the English for the is dark materials words, which are obviously not in France, where the title is quite not based on the same reference. And
ah,
same at the end of the new trilogy, so this extract from Queen Fury
right.
are not also translated, I think, because also I don't think there is any French version of the books.
Really?
Um, mo- mo- most of the so text remain really the same. There has always still been a quiet, so it's maybe more related to language. But when you read the French trilogy, the first one, Easter, the Demon of Lee, it's not so obvious. It's a female demon when you read it in French,
Ah,
because demon in French is a he word, so it would be translated by he in English, and
okay.
the demon itself. And so it has been so discussed back then with other readers, but I'm not sure it's clearly understandable in the book that it's a she demon. But
Okay.
otherwise, the translation I think is quite fine.
Okay.
And so I presented the books in the same way in both languages.
That makes sense. The difference between making certain references to poetry, especially being difficult to translate, of course, and then thinking about the relationship between Lyra and her demon, other characters and their demons, maybe being a difficult element to translate and to get across in another language as well. Um, and I'm remembering that there is also some French poetry that is quoted in the Amber Spyglass, at least in my edition. Every chapter has a little quote from something, and one of them is the Cemetery by the Sea of Paul Valéry. I'm not sure exactly how it's translated, but La Cimetière Marine, something like this. Are you a reader of poetry in French as well, or did you study it in school at any time or?
Not so much nowadays. I more remember the French poetry quoted many times in the new trilogy when it
Oh,
appears a
okay.
lot, including Paul Valéry in the last one, which makes the opening also a quotation.
The park or
So I
something.
had go and checked when I read the Secret Commonwealth to go to see what was the original work.
Yeah.
But so it was not so. In the Secret Commonwealth, yes, there are a few quotations of quite famous French poetry indeed. So some that I knew, some other I didn't. So I went and checked and
Uh-huh.
to see for the original reference. But it's quite interesting because Pullman is quite so said many times he likes poetry,
Yes.
including when he does not understand what it means, but just the pleasure of the rhythm and everything.
Yes.
And so I know he speaks a little bit French, so he understands also a bit. But it's quite funny when you read a book in English and suddenly you see a few sentences or
Yeah.
stuff like this in the book in French in your own language. And so for the last one, you have all this quote by Leonidas when he arrives not it's nearby in Aleppo, whereas this long quotation in French is the restaurant when they want to meet Mustafa Bey, and
Right.
the guy is speaking in French, and it's really fun to see everything. And right in the middle of English without translation, so without English translation,
Yeah.
but it's quite funny
Yeah,
to have this cross-referenced.
I really enjoy that too. Is Pullman very popular in France? Is there a large readership for him, or is he sort of
I think so at least there was, for the latest books, it's more difficult to say. The French publisher was quite supportive for the first trilogy and the years after that.
Mhm.
So there was quite a lot of ad about his books. So when I went in the bookstore, so there was some posters about the new books, and
Yeah.
I tried to grab some, but I never could. But it's yeah. So so for at least until the first trilogy and the years after, it was more popular. So we had a quiet. So back then in the website for French readers, we had quite a lot of people coming. Also, had quite active community. For the last few years, maybe because it's less oriented or targeting to younger audiences or readers. Maybe there was some switch in the approach of the publisher. just by the fact that, for example, we have now more than 1 year gap for the translation for the
Yeah.
book 2 and 3. For the first one, La Belle Sauvage, it was only I think 2 or 3 weeks. So it was really a
Yeah.
combined approach. So maybe also change, maybe also because all the readers grew up and are not really uh, not so target or something like this. So I think there was some sort of change, but maybe because it's also from my point of view of a reader who grew up as well.
Yeah.
But honestly, so there was quite supportive, and we were lucky to have most of the books have been translated, including out of the His Dark Materials universe. We
Oh,
are
yeah.
quite, I think, one of the very few countries where there have been almost complete translation of the book, including the small companion books.
Yeah.
They have been in France, I think they have all been translated. Only the Imagination Chamber is not
Hmm.
available, from what I know. But otherwise, yes, all the books have been translated, so we were quite lucky.
Yeah. So
And
maybe after the English speaking countries, France is the next largest uh, group
yeah,
of
so
popularity. Yeah.
yeah, so I think yeah. So when I so back then for Cittagazze.com, so I was quite interested in so everything what was being released everywhere. So Brazil had a lot of
Oh, yes.
translation, not the latest one, I think, but yeah. So in France, it was quite lucky. Italian also, Italian books have been most so all, at least the main ones have been translated. But yeah, so I
Is
was lucky being there.
yeah, and I mean, I think it's really interesting that there has been such a delay in bringing out these newest books. I wonder if it's because they're very long or there's some other difficulty with the translation. I don't know, but it seems like a strange choice if they made the choice to delay it on purpose. Um, but I also was going to ask about the website. Um, so I'm assuming it's a little bit less active there currently, but have there been people who've stuck with it over all these years? Is it still a community where you're in touch with people from other countries and things like this? Because for a while it was very popular. It was a big deal, like when the movies were coming out. I remember.
Yeah, so the website was mostly oriented to French readers because of the language for the main reason, of course.
Mhm.
But it was so it was linked. So there was um, regular so communication, at least I think with the other British fan websites. So there was at least communication when one was publishing something, so the other could
Uh,
take it or translate or something like this. The community, yes, so it really was active. So I would say so it was created. So in 2002, I joined there in 2004, something like this.
okay.
And so it was really active. So from this time until so a few years after the release of the movie, uh, since then it has been more the regular people visiting it from the forum boards, continuing to visit, and so with people who have been knowing each other for 15, 20 years. So
Mhm.
now we are friends. So the website actually will stop being active uh, later this year.
Oh,
But
okay.
so I think we will keep some contact or internal. So another way to keep in contact with the people because we are some friends who have known each other for something like 20 years, and
Yeah.
so we used to meet for Midsummer Days. So usually we all met in Paris.
Oh,
So
wow.
we came there, and it was so. Those people are friends, and so we like to see. So every 2 or 3 years now, we see each other. The children are growing
What?
up, and actually, so it was 2010. So it was absolutely not deliberate, but there was a British festival right synchronous with our meeting,
Oh,
and Philip Pullman was there. So we had some great, incredible afternoon with Philip Pullman coming, joining our picnic on our invitation for 1 hour. And
wow.
so there were everyone. So we we had picnic with Philip Pullman in a Parisian park, and it was yes, quite fun. And but yeah, so the website. To come back to
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the question, yeah, so it helped also less lot of people to came there, so just asking for questions about the books,
Mhm.
some discussion. So it was yes on for the France Cittagazze.com and also the British ones or American ones. So there was this bridge to the stars.net
Yes, right.
and isdarkmaterial.org, so which disappeared since then. But there was a really active communities on each of them, and event organized and screening of the movie, so people gathering for the screening of the movies, and it was a good time and so quite open communities, so with a lot of talks, and it was uh, so maybe it's because I've been part of it, but I never felt it as a toxic
Hmm.
environment that it can sometimes grow in some fan-based communities. But
Yeah,
so on my side, it's only good memories, which
that's
is what is
ve
related to the websites.
very fortunate. Yeah. I
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a very big um active community on Reddit right now. That's where I see, like, if I'm searching for things, often discussion boards on Reddit will come up as results, as where people are having discussions about Philip Pullman currently. I know he was also on Twitter a lot for a while, and so there's a lot of
Yes.
like interaction on Twitter. Obviously, Twitter has changed a lot in the last few
Yeah.
years, so yeah. But but it's exciting that you actually got to have your picnic with Philip Pullman. That's really amazing. Do you know if there's going to be another get together like that sometime? Or are you planning to try to meet up for maybe like when the book is released in French or something like that?
So yeah, so I don't know yet. So we have to talk with people. So usually, yeah, there are something like 20, I said 20 old friends, 15,
Mhm.
20 old friends who meet. So maybe meet Summer Day this year or another event, depending on the availability of everyone, because now everyone is, I said, growing up now, kids young or old, and
Mhm.
the possibility to meet is much more difficult nowadays than
For
it was
sure.
15 years ago, I would say, when we were all students or at least young adults and
Yeah.
without a professional or study or anything coming in between. But so I hope it will happen because it's part of the nice thing of this kind of communities, I think.
Yeah.
And
Well, I know that Pullman has said a few times in recent interviews that he is going to work on his memoir. He's going to write some of his life stories, memories, and things. And I can't remember if that is something that he talks about in interviews or if it's in some of his essays, like in Demon Voices. But somewhere he talks about having um, very specific memories related to I think it's in the interview at the end of the Rosefield audiobook. He has memories related to the guillotine. Like he got very afraid of some sort of uh, it's like a game that he had when he was a little kid. And so forever after that, he had this association of France and the guillotine with being afraid. And I don't know if that's like what causes him to decide eventually to make Mrs. Coulter have this kind of family history with Delamere, right? This very villainous character, and his mother who is terrifying. Um, but I wonder about that. And I don't know if you've read uh, Harry Potter as well, but in those books, the villain is also Voldemort. He has this kind of French name. Like, is there something about villains and France, and is there still like some kind of conflict between British people and French people that I'm not aware of, or is it only in stories, maybe?
probably because France and UK have been having worked with each other for about 2,000 years. But
A long time.
maybe this, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so I have no idea on this point. It's clear that on the other stories, you know that there are some so out of England roots for Mrs. Coulter with
Yes.
yeah Delamare is yeah so the formation of de la mer in French.
Yeah.
Delacroix is also Aqua, so there's some stuff like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and there is so also some Van Van Zee is also so maybe it's more Dutch.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there is yeah some connection from outside from Mrs. Culture, but as for France, I couldn't say. So maybe
Okay.
it's also the imagination, also from so. I mean, Philip Pullman was not only in UK but also in Australia and also very different
Mm,
part of the world.
that's true.
But there's also this imagination in Count Karlstein is set is in Germantown. So
Hmm.
there is also this, I would say, European exotic location. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I never really thought on this aspect of things, but it's interesting.
Well, because in other places he talks very positively about stories that he read as a kid. There's a book, it's translated into English as 100 million francs, and it's a famous children's story. And he talks about how he was really captivated, really fascinated by the character in that story, and that she was a big inspiration for Lyra. Um, so he, you know, obviously he loves French poetry as well. He memorizes poetry from all over, but particularly seems to have a connection with France. And a lot of the fairy tales and folk tales that he's drawing on in the Secret Commonwealth, especially, but and other places too. There's a close connection between French stories and then stories from places like Wales and elsewhere in Great Britain. Um, so yeah, I think it just seems like it'd be an interesting thing to look at more closely, how Pullman is in conversation um, with the continent, of course, like other places, but specifically with France. But because of Mrs. Coulter, right? Because of this really important character, um, and as he's writing the new trilogy, it seems like that is the piece that he sort of starts to think about, like how can he develop um, some new villains for this new book, right? He goes to a character called Gerard Bonneville, another French name, right? Who's
Yeah,
sort of a mysterious, almost like a uh, he almost can't be killed. He has this almost like a zombie. He keeps chasing
yeah,
Malcolm and Lyra and Alice in La Belle Sauvage. But yeah, so I don't know. Uh, I personally was not as interested in the Book of Dust as his Dark Materials, like maybe it's just because I haven't gone back and read it enough at this point because I've read his Dark Materials so many times. But but I think of the things that he does introduce in the new series, some of the material related to Mrs. Coulter is some of the most interesting to me. Um, and we can talk about spoilers if you want to, but obviously there's some things that are
yeah,
not, French people will not know these things
yes.
yet. So, yeah.
So let's say there were some really surprising choices and
Yes.
events introduced in the story, which well were not ex so expected or which not really completely fit in what was coming before
Yeah.
in the first trilogy at least. And so I was a bit surprised. So especially related to what it's told about Mrs. Coulter. Uh, but okay, so maybe it's yeah, it's more to make everything fit together. Maybe in
Mhm.
this story, so Philip Pullman had in mind. So I don't know if everything is pertinent or credible in the end, but it's interesting to see this choice being made. So maybe it's also yes with this influence of tales and folk tales and canon stories, which are remade in his own way. So
Yeah.
with family, where there is always more to be discovered in the family secrets and everything. So it's interesting. As said, so I'm not completely convinced with the choice, but
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, it's interesting to see or maybe to wonder how you arrive to this choice in the
Yeah.
story. My general feeling is about so this new trilogy is most what I felt when reading it is that what I read was Philip Pullman has been occupied or worrying about for the last 20 years. So from the time he finished reading his writing, sorry, his first trilogy,
Yes. Yes.
and the time he started publishing the new one, we saw all the folktale stuff, which first led him to write this Green Tales retelling.
Right.
There were all the elements from La Belle Sauvage with Egyptian in their boatyard,
Hmm.
which was some kind of personal involvement he had in Oxford with people
Yes.
getting stolen their boatyard, so getting rid of their boatyard. So, and all these elements we see, and then also all the financial stuff and all the political stuff. And
Right.
when you have followed Philip Pullman for 20 years, you know everything he has said, good or bad, I would say, but about politics. And in fact, you can pick all those stuff in the new trilogy, and you have the feeling it really that okay, he wanted to speak about what worries him and what
Yeah.
drives him, and everything has been assembled together in this trilogy, and it's quite interesting to read. So sometimes, okay, you exactly know, okay, this stuff, okay, we know that Philip Pullman is really 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 worried about this point, and it's okay,
Yeah.
oh, it appears in the story.
Right. 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 Yeah, that's exactly. I think also some of it seems to be a response to how people talked about his views of religion from the first trilogy, right? Clearly the church is the villain in the original His Dark Materials, but it's a little bit more complicated. Like you said in the new books, there's almost more of a focus on corporations and trade and finance being more of a problem. The church is still dangerous, still violent, but also, this professor who has written a book that sounds a lot like Philip Pullman's book, right? He is very dangerous, right? Because it makes Lyra lose her imagination and reading some other
Yeah,
professors who, yeah. So I think he is absolutely working out some of his opinions and beliefs and
yeah.
doing that through the story. I wonder if you feel like he makes a compelling argument. Do you think that um, we do we really learn a lot more about um, Lyra and her world through the new story by having this kind of wider view of politics and sort of a different view of religion. Because I personally, I was a little bit disappointed by the end of the Rose Field. I was like, is this really the end? I wanted to find more out about Will. I wanted to find more out about Mary Malone. Like we never touch those characters.
Yeah,
They're left out entirely, and
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah,
yeah, maybe someday, but yeah.
someday, I hope.
It's yeah, same kind of feeling. So it's the same world, but it's not the same. I would say
Mm,
there are a lot of things which were expected to come back. I would say, or people, and we don't see. And it's, I said, it's an expansion of the first story, but it's not the same world. It's not the same magic.
yeah.
And my feeling, so last time I spoke with other readers about it, it was my feeling was it's more than so the first trilogy. So there was all this topics. So this general trend about going from innocence to experience.
Hmm.
And so it was the message was, okay, it's great to grow up. Childhood is good, but growing up it's good because then you can act, you can at least
Yeah.
be active and actor of your life and everything. And the second trilogy, my feeling when we finish it, it's more than okay. Once you grow up, it sucks
A
because
little bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, the world, okay, you have to build this republic of even to have everyone happy
Yes.
and open-minded and helpful to each other. And in fact, there's corporations, there are politics, there are people who just want money instead of taking care of each other. There are migrants, there
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
economic collapse, wars, and everything. And so, yeah, okay. In the end, Lyra helps all people in this weird place. Uh, so she tries to do something good, but mostly it's okay. So let's grow up, but it won't be easy.
Yeah, I think it's very realistic. It's a little
Yeah,
bit pessimistic, perhaps, not as
yeah,
hopeful as the end of the first trilogy. Um, but yeah, as I'm rereading it, for this project, I am appreciating it more. I'm liking it a lot more actually by listening to the audiobook as well. That has helped me kind of get into the story. Reading it the first couple of times, it was hard for me to follow. We're jumping around a lot between Malcolm and Olivier, and suddenly Lyra has dismantled the alethiometer, right? This some very surprising
yeah.
changes,
Big
right?
shock.
And and yeah, it was hard for me to sort of accept. And I think maybe again that is part of the point. Uh, Pullman challenging some of the readers who grew up with his dark materials to say, well, this is what you get if you really follow my perspective. You have to accept the world as it is, even as you're trying to change it and make it better. You have to see, there's horrible things that happen to Lyra, like really bad. And that's
Yeah.
that's part of life. So I know that, yeah, from everyone I've talked to, uh, people don't really love it the way they loved the first books, but they definitely give you a lot to think about and a lot to wrestle with. And so, yeah, I haven't totally dismissed Pullman. I do think when I listen to him in interviews, recent interviews, he's getting really old. He's the right age to write his memoirs. He's had a great life, a very interesting life. I know he wrestles with depression, as he says, melancholy, right, using the older word for that. But he's also, had an incredible um, run of he's really become one of the major writers living today, and he's thought about a lot of things, and so I really value his perspective. But yeah, just as a story, I thought this one didn't quite uh, rise to the expectations that I had from the first trilogy. So, but we have about 5 more minutes, and we haven't talked very much about his Dark Materials or Pullman's other books. If you've actually had a chance to read stuff outside of, the Lyra stories,
Yeah.
I'd be curious what you think about which ones are your favorites and why, and yeah, what else would you like to talk about before we run out of time here?
So yeah, so the other books. So the first one I went through was the Soliloquy Quartet because this one has been translated in France back then when I started to be curious and grab around the other books by Philip Pullman. So
Yeah,
quite nice Victorian society or
yeah, yeah.
Victorian mysteries, stuff like this. But maybe one so these ones I only discovered in English because they don't exist in France. But this duet with the New Cat Gang are really lovely children detective stories, but written with a kind of wit and I would say smiling words
Yeah.
because it's quiet scene with a writer having fun writing his stories about kids running around London
Yeah, yeah,
in the, so I don't know, 80s, 50s, something like this, I would say.
yeah.
It was really a nice reading this. I think there is also one single sentence where there is a Mary Malone appearing in the story. I
Mm.
think it's a lady living next to the kids in the story, and it's really fun to see this kind of stuff appearing in the stories. But
Mm.
yeah, so what? Yeah, so there was all these other books. So it was interesting also to read the grim tales
Mhm.
and the small comments in the stories about it. What is maybe more interesting when you want to go through the author mind and everything is all these essays from the demon voices.
Yeah, yeah.
So this one were also never translated. So sometimes it's when not English speaking, it's you have to be more to grab a bit more to go through it. But it's also a really interesting insight in the approach of Philip Pullman about writing and how the stories develop and to see how he's working on imagination
Yes, yes.
and go to the sources of his inspiration.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I
so yeah, I went yeah. Only the first ones I think I never was able to read because it's unfindable or
his early
was
books
yeah,
are very hard to find. Um, I do have copies of Galatea and the Haunted Storm, his novels that he wrote when he was pretty young, you know. Um,
yeah,
and it's interesting to compare them actually to certain elements of Galatea, especially. Um, there's a kind of journey in search of a person who's been lost, and it's very similar to uh, Lyra going in search of Pan and Pan going in search of Lyra's imagination. You know, it's almost like a mirror image of this book that he wrote, you know, I don't know, 50 years ago or something. It's so
yeah. It was in the late 70s, something like this.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so it's unfindable.
Yeah.
So you're
Well, okay.
lucky.
I I really appreciate again that you took the time to talk to me and kind of fill me in a little bit about your experience with the books and maybe we can make another time somewhere down the line, especially if some of your friends in Cittagazze world get back in touch and they want to join too. I think it would be fun to have kind of a more discussion if
I
you're
try to
available.
motivate them. Yes,
Okay, okay.
sure.
Well, I'll send you this audio and post it pretty soon, and we can share it with them and see what they think, uh,
Okay.
and the video as well. Yeah. So thank you again, Gaetan.
Thanks a lot for what you're doing and for promoting Philip Pullman books and analyzing them. That's good.
Aha.
Thanks a
Right.
lot.
Likewise. Likewise.